everybody to our I'm First Gen Day celebration panel. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Sophia Gabry. I'm the director of Upward Bound. I think you all know that at this point, so it's good to see you. We've organized this panel to honor National First Generation College Celebration Day. So today we are celebrating the success of first generation college students, faculty, staff, and alumni. Those who are and were first generation college students bring many strengths and diversity to college campuses and workspaces all across the United States. These individuals are enthusiastic, self-sufficient, persistent, perseverant, optimistic, creative, and socially intelligent. I could go on and on about the strengths of first generation people, but our panelists here today will do a much better job by talking about their experiences and accomplishments. So everyone on the panel, please take a moment to introduce yourself by stating your name, year in college or profession, and college major, and then we'll jump into some questions. So I do have some prepared questions, but we'll give our guests the opportunity to ask any questions that you have, either by unmuting yourself or putting them in the chat.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amina Rucker. I'm a junior in college and I'm majoring in social work.
Everyone, my name is Raymond Fry. I'm not currently in college, but I'm an academic counselor for the Educational Opportunity Program. When I was in college, I went to Utica College. I won't tell you how long ago, and I was receiving a bachelor's in mathematics with a certification in child special education. Then I went on to get my master's in literacy, and again, obviously at the college level as an
Shania,
Sorry.
you're good.
Hi, y'all. So my name is Shania. I graduated from Binghamton in 2021, and I got my master's in social work. I'm currently a licensed social worker working as a mental health therapist for a mental health organization.
All righty, thanks to all our panelists for introducing themselves. So just to start off, who would like to talk about, or anybody can jump in, what motivated you to pursue a college degree?
I can start. So for me personally, like we're all first gen college students here. So for me personally, it was mostly seeing the financial struggle that both of my parents had without a college education. And that was a big drive for me to kind of break the cycle of poverty in my family personally. So and college for me always sorry, there's a gnat in my office, so I apologize for that. College for me was always seen as a goal to getting out of that cycle of poverty. So for me, it was the financial gain.
For me, college was always one of those things. My family had a lot of conversations that led towards academics. So it was, although they never got to that goal, it was a goal that they saw for me. I was lucky enough to have family push me to go to college, but didn't tell me what to do in college as well. So that made it very comfortable for me in the sense that they were pushing that academic idea, even though they didn't get that.
I feel like for me, college just brought more opportunities my way, especially since I want to go to social work. So I feel like with that major, I can do more and educate more, like with a college level degree.
To like create generational policies behind the vision. But they also like let me decide what to do, so that's also what we want to do outside.
Nice. Yeah, being able to find that balance between, being that advocate for your family and that positive representation, and then what you want for yourself is really important. Oh, we already have a question from one of our students here. So what is your best advice when trying to achieve a master's degree?
For me, I guess the best advice I can give you is your master's degree does not necessarily have to be the exact same thing as your bachelor's degree. There are a lot of things that are connected to bachelor's degrees and can be achieved in different ways. So for me, I went to undergrad as a math major, decided I was going to pursue a master's degree in mathematics. If you notice, that was not one of the things I said I have a master's in, because about a year in, I said that wasn't going to work out. So I switched my master's degree into education. And again, you'll notice that I don't have a degree. I'm not currently in a job that is literacy, right? That's what my master's is in. So when it comes to master's degree, be open to different avenues that may be different from your undergrad or connected to your undergrad. And also then be open to different avenues after that master's degree of where that can lead you in a career. Be open to the different things.
Something else that I feel like I can add to that would be utilizing your resources that you utilizing your resources and supports that you get during your undergrad. For me, that was a big deal. I know Sophia personally from undergrad, and she helped me a lot throughout my graduate program. So I would definitely say utilizing your supports that you do develop in your undergraduate program, because I know as first gen college students, like pursuing a master's seems as like, you know, holy crap, like we're first gen and we're trying to pursue a master's degree. That can be really intimidating for a lot of people. So definitely leaning on your supports and your resources.
Yeah, I can't really stress that point enough, right? Students use those resources, and definitely what Ray was saying, be open-minded about it. I think sometimes we think we have to follow a set track, and it doesn't always look like that. So what advice would you give an incoming college student about how to meet people and get involved on their new campus?
Participate in class.
Love that.
Participate in class. I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut anybody off if anybody was talking. A lot of college students, I feel like, are kind of afraid to like raise their hand and talk in class. I was that annoying college student who got banned from talking in class because I would raise my hand too much. But a lot of the times the other kids like in the class, like if I had never spoken to someone, they would know me as that girl who would talk in class a lot, or like if they saw you outside of the class or whatever the case is. So I feel like be willing to participate in class, which in some way is included in putting yourself out there.
Like, for us, like, we have to engage that, like, and just like, it's like, you never know, it might end up being class, like, it might end up telling you about making a cheaper job, so it's just like,
Building off of that, when I was in undergrad, so I was a little interesting in the sense that my home was down the street from where I went to undergrad. I could have walked there if I wanted to, but I didn't. So I spent a lot of time at home. I wasn't going to those general body meetings. I wasn't going to clubs. I didn't meet a lot of people in undergrad. So when I came here for my master's, Binghamton, I made it a goal to talk to people, go to those meetings. I joined a lot more clubs. And that kind of brings your happiness to, right? classes can be stressful and all that, if you have friends and other people to rely on you for your classes, that can help to be that stress reducer. So like in my orientation meeting, before it even began, I turned to the person who gave information and stuff, because I wanted to kind of change.
Yeah, I think it's really important to just like take advantage of your resources or go outside your room, even if it's to, like the cafeteria. You never know who you can meet. Like I made friends at one time in the cafeteria. So I think that's like, feel good.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to what Ray is sharing, right? I feel like when you're first gen, it's so easy to be like, I gotta do well in my classes and like I have to do X, Y, Z, and you kind of forget about all the resources and people you can connect with. So doing that earlier is always really, really helpful, and getting to know your faculty, like Shania was saying, speaking up in class is always really important, right? Because those are going to be letters of recommendation, right? Those are going to help provide you with different opportunities that you may not know about without them. So, good segue here. Were you involved in any clubs or organizations throughout your undergraduate years? And how would you say that contributed to your college experience?
Um,
maybe part of that is, it's my stress. Not just now, also, other, oh, it gives me like a more, so like, out here, it's something that's good for my friends. So that, and it also points to like how about like, so that, like my class. But also gives me a chance to also be social, it's not like I have to like work on my education. So,
Me, I obviously again didn't participate much in my undergrad, but I did do a few little things with martial arts, very little amount of running. But I guess to go off of that, with what clubs and organizations can do for you is they can actually do things which are out of college as well. So for instance, me, I started that idea of kind of running when I was in undergrad, and now being here, even through my master's and all that, I'm now the president and CEO of the running club. So I do all that stuff. We raise money for scholarships for students. I basically had a board of 13 people, many of who are older than me. So things you do in clubs and organizations and holding positions like that can really kind of help to propel you in your time after college.
So for me personally, sorry, I couldn't tell if somebody was talking, so I apologize if I cut somebody off. For me, like in my undergrad, not so much in grad school, I kind of made it a point to be involved in as much stuff as possible. I was that like annoying girl that was in almost everything that you could think of, which I definitely say does help you in terms of meeting people and building connections that you can utilize even outside of outside of college. But fair warning for those students who want to be that type of student who is super involved. Just be aware of managing your time as well when you are involved in a lot of stuff, because like a lot of the times we can get caught up in like some college students, not everyone, but a lot of college students like being busy, like finding things to keep them busy. But a lot of the times that can become super overwhelming with the pressures of being a first gen college student at the same time.
I'm not in a lot of organizations on campus, but I do a lot of like volunteering. So I would definitely say that, you should really get out there and do more, but it's like really important to manage your time. So I'm not good at managing my time, so I don't really go out as much, but it is good to go out and manage it.
Yeah, sound advice. I think, Hamina, you might be better at managing your time than you think. So we have a couple more questions in the chat. One student asked, who should the students talk to if they feel homesick or are having roommate issues?
For us, it's about therapy type of services. But for me personally, I find like somebody to help is considered. So that's what I would go for. Especially if it's like housing problems, like we are.
There are a lot of like organizations on campus, especially like mental health. But I like to go to like the kids and my friends, like family, just a phone call home, or just like anybody on campus. They're really like nice and friendly. So I think you should take advantage of those.
Being someone who is one of those resources as an academic counselor, I'll jump in. Talk to whatever academic counselors are available to you. Although my title does say academic in it, but I tell a lot of students is my job is to be your connection to every other resource. So if there's a problem with a name or something, I can help you with that. Maybe not be the person who's sitting there mediating it, but we can connect you to the resources that they help with that. Same with mental health struggles, feeling sick. Again, speaking specifically for our office, most of us that are academic counselors in the education program are first generation college students as well. So we went through those exact kind of feelings of feeling homesick or getting home one day and being just so emotionally drained because you had to meet so many new people and you didn't have your connection to friends that you were used to. So a lot of us have been through that struggle, so we understand it. So talk to those resources.
Yeah. Reaching out and like so like just someone who's around you that you can talk to.
Yeah, definitely. We have another question here. Have you ever rethought your major? If so, what made you stick with it?
Yes. Oh, so for me in undergrad, I because I wanted to go into becoming a therapist. People hear therapy and you think psychology. So that was what I had started with in undergrad. But then personally for me, I learned quickly on that psych for me wasn't the field. I personally like to talk to people, interact with people, and psychology for me was very textbooky and very, like not so much people interaction, just more so like the study of the brain. So you can always go to your academic advice office to discuss like a possible route for changing your major. Or if it isn't something you want to necessarily change, you can add something on, that kind of stuff. But definitely I would say don't put so much pressure on yourself to stick with one major, because your journey throughout college is constantly going to change.
Building off of that, it's okay to question your major as well and stay with it. There was many times where I had tough assignments in my major or classes or professors that maybe I didn't connect with or I felt didn't understand the struggle that I was going through. But there is that kind of grit to stay with something if you are really passionate for it. So it's kind of the difference in speaking to an academic counselor can definitely help with that of, am I struggling with this topic or am I disliking it completely? Or am I just having kind of a moment where I need to push harder to continue to go through? There is that little bit of struggle that a lot of times college education can go through. But as was already said, I changed my major multiple times and decided different things. I mean, I wanted to be an architect at one point, so I went through many, many different things, so it is perfectly okay to change.
I, first major I didn't know what I was a human development. I didn't really like it that much, I like what's sort of inside of it. I then changed it to not become a space major, which is very major. Me personally, I feel like I have some passion about something to stick with it, like don't be afraid to just stick with it. If you find that it's something that doesn't, that you're not passionate about, don't be afraid to jump in with it. There's no shame in saying that you don't like. If you don't like it, you find a new picture. There's always the opportunity to pass. You can, like, you don't have to stick with it, but you don't.
Yeah, definitely be open-minded. And I love that combination of like finding your passions, finding that balance, and then having that growth mindset that Ray was talking about. Sometimes some classes will be tough, but you might want to stick with that major.
Something else, can I add something, Sophia? Yeah, something else I wanted to add to that for just is really personal to me as well. Don't feel pressured by what other people have to say in terms of what your major is, because personally, for me, like I graduated with my master's in social work, so I became a social worker, and so many times I heard from people say, "Oh, there's no money in social work," like, "Oh, you're wasting your time." It's not true. It is not true. Once you get into the field, you kind of find a lot of the negative things people have to say about your field are just purely based on stereotypes. So definitely, like what everyone was saying, find your passion, find what you want to do, but also don't be too swayed by what other people have to say in terms of what your major is, because especially for those people who don't work in your field.
But there is a specific plan that we have to go. And like it's like imagine. But yeah, like you can decide like you that's basically recommended. And then you realize you're actually wanting to be awesome. Easy to stop, and that's not too long. So that's and then study and learning about something that you actually want to learn. And just like also enjoying your time as well, because a lot of college, like not it's also about like as a person, and so yeah, just like trying to build
Yeah, it might seem repetitive, but I think it's really important to emphasize that point, right? Because I know I can only speak for myself, but as a first-gen student, I was like, I need to finish in this amount of time. I'm paying so much money. Oh my God, this is so stressful. When really it doesn't have to be that, high pressure, high stress, right? We all have our own path in terms of how long it takes and things like that. Another question, what advice would you give someone if they feel overworked?
things, so like sometimes I can't do it with you. It's just not wrong. So like I feel like or kind of like track like if you realize stress. find out how to manage that. So after we talk, like, maybe like, you're doing too much. So, whatever, just, and like, I'm sometimes it's and so we contact them. So definitely like why maybe your grades are low time stress. So just like figuring out what the problem is and trying to stress. Like even though like you feel like you're alone sometimes, we consider big friends. It's new people, so like not the same. But even though you feel alone, there are a lot of cases. There are a lot of people who want it.
Think building off of that feeling of, I mean, when we first started going through this, it's very, very common. With pretty much everything from burnout to, low grades or whatever, you tend to feel like I'm the only person going through this, I'm the only person who must be experiencing this, everybody else is fine. So recognizing that fact that there are other people who've gone through this, are going through this, maybe finding ways to connect with those people or connecting with the resources that are fantastic, because sometimes you'll feel so overburdened with stress that you think you're the only person, so you're stressing about being stressed, being the only person, and it just compounds on confidence. As for like a strategy for some of that, kind of walk it as well. Time management is huge when you do kind of get to that thing where you're feeling overwhelmed. I've worked with a lot of students who feel that, okay, I just don't have enough time in the day, but it may be that you're spending 6 hours a night on your math homework, and that's too much time on that. Maybe you need the efficiency of how you're studying, ways that you can use that to free up that time, do a club or to call a family member or go out with friends. Like those sorts of things need time and there's your schedule.
I think it's very important to prioritize taking a break, because sometimes you can burn yourself out if you're like studying for too long, working too hard. You have to make sure to take adequate breaks, like between the.
That's really important to accept.
Now get back to it.
For some people, they're like, they're gonna just not gonna be able to do something. But it's continue to overload yourself and not break is necessary.
Yeah, lots of gems in there. I think the comparison thing is really important that Ray had mentioned too, because it's really easy, especially in classes in college. You're like, you think of all the work you've done and you feel like maybe you're struggling in the class or something like that, and then everybody's bringing their best self to the class. You start comparing yourself to others. So never let that stuff get in your head. And then breaks are definitely important, right? Just the nerd in me, no cramming in terms of studying, right? Do work in those breaks because you'll actually retain a lot more information. Another question. What are the best ways to get more help if you are struggling in a topic or class?
Like, and like, I don't know, like it depends like on with a specific those are like easier to look into your schedule. That's so like like whatever it is that you just figure out what the best studying method is for you. And again, like what exactly you're showing the foundation, are you showing
build off of that. I think all the resources are fantastic, but don't be afraid to go to those resources either. I remember I was a student that when I was an undergrad, I thought going to office hours just meant I was admitting that I was stupid. And I had to kind of break that stigma of that going and seeing or going to tutoring didn't necessarily mean that I didn't even understand the concept. Sometimes it's just finding a simple kind of practice. So I think just trying to remove the stigma of asking for help.
And Jane is really helpful. So they're just there chilling, waiting for you to go. Okay, there's no shame in them. And they just people. Office hours do are sometimes themselves. It's hard for them to help you with like find a workaround you can from their office hours, but a lot of them people love it issue. And they'll try and come up with a solution. But they don't have to it's just there. Hardly any of those, they help.
Something else that I feel like I wanted to add to that too. Kind of like a hidden gem with asking for help as well. I've been in situations in some of my classes where, so what everybody is saying makes sense, like going to office hours and asking for help, but kind of a also hidden gem with that, depending on your professors. I've been in situations in some of my classes where like I'm doing horribly in the class, but I'm constantly going to office hours. I'm participating in class, asking questions. And even if my grade is not like improving by much, my professors will see that I'm trying in the class. And by the end of the semester, I've literally had some professors like come in clutch and boost my grade by like few points to get me to like a decent grade, if that makes sense. Not obviously anything crazy because they can't do that. They can't bring you from a C to an A, but I've had some professors like, you know, if they see that you're trying, you're asking for help and you're really working hard to improve your grade, that professor, depending on who they are, can possibly come in and help you at the end of the semester. So that's like a hidden gem with what we were saying before with asking for help and building relationships with your professors. Because they came in clutch for me a lot of times.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I'll also plug tutoring, right? We all know tutors sit around a lot of the time and all they want to do is help students. So utilize those resources.
Mhm.
There are a lot of questions around academic support. So another question, how do you prepare yourself for a test?
So like, once it's like, concepts. I want to actually test myself, but I'm not. Taking my phone. And like, yeah, for me, like, release my stress anxiety. So like, that's why that helps. Like, for me, like, tests are hard because of that, like, I just think it's just what I'm doing, even though I'm studying, I think. So like, that's. So it's like, I use a lot, and like, thought that. So like, I'll put like, oh, today, and just like constantly like doing it, so try, so like I'm like mentally prepared. And yeah, just like realize the resources and making sure that I feel like I'm understanding and that I put a lot of effort into actually understanding this area.
for me, I like to go to tutoring a lot, just like go over review, and I use a lot of flashcards since my tests are mostly memorization. So I just like go to tutoring, use flashcards, do a lot of practice problems, and they usually goes. Especially if it's like the night of the study session, that is not. Okay. Like, chill as a little. Bring down the, like, night before the class starts. I said, like, you need to go to the back. And a good one.
Make it clear to myself. So I like to like teach me. So, I'll like watch videos and try to understand, and I'll try to do that like second time I have class. So that's these, but I'll also try. So also like feel like I have a little bit better understanding. And then like towards that's like remember it, and then obviously then closer to the table. I was gonna say I have time. Like like 19, like exam, then like this like not time. But it's like videos of how to do it harder. So that's just like talking to you as you. But yeah, so like I would do like by that like 1 week time exam. That's when like I would just do like literally, but by that point, like, I don't do it that much. I don't really like just like preparing the earliest you can. I find students especially I get really consistent time. So kind of like if I said it, like out of the time, out of the time something else and
With preparing for tests, I don't know if this is contradictory or not, but a good way to help you prepare for tests is also allowing yourself to take breaks. I don't know if someone said that already. But we talked about before with, you shouldn't cram before a test or avoiding trying to like jam in all night study sessions. But while studying for a test, I definitely would encourage you guys to also reward yourself with some kind of break, because getting breaks will actually help you feel more productive and within that feeling of feeling productive, you retain more information because you feel like you're actually getting work done, if that makes sense, instead of just sitting down for like a certain amount of time, just cramming in information.
Yeah, I'm loving all the really helpful study tips. We brought up spaced repetition. We mentioned creating the testing environment, taking those breaks and rewarding yourself. I know I've seen sometimes people put like gummy bears at the end of chapters and stuff and eat them as they finish. So these are all really good things to start doing now while you're in high school. Because then when you have more assignments and things and more in-depth tests, it just becomes easier because you have these best practices in mind. So we have about 10 minutes left here. So feel free to pop any last minute questions in the chat that you have. Let's see. Can you tell us about a challenge or barrier you faced during college and what resources were helpful in overcoming it?
During college, I feel like a big barrier, for me at least, was the fear of failure. I know for me in college, I had a huge failure at one point where I got academically dismissed from college, which for those that don't know is when you get kicked out of school because your grades are really low. So for me, that kind of set me back a lot, like mentally, because like as first gen college students, it's kind of ingrained in our heads that we're not allowed, to fail. We're not allowed to have any like struggles in college because we are the ones that are kind of paving the way for the next generation. So I think that fear of failure was constantly over my head, especially when I got kicked out of school. But I think just how we were saying before, knowing your resources and building those supports in college can be really helpful in terms of combating that fear of failure, but also kind of cutting yourself some slack with not putting so much pressure on yourself, if that makes sense.
Kind of building off that, not to stay on the failure route, but I had a moment where, similarly, I was severed from a graduate program where I had my grades had dropped to a certain point, and I tried to do some different exams to eventually get my master's in math. And when you don't pass that sort of stuff after a couple of times, they kind of completely cut you off, as severed kind of seems to imply. And you kind of have this moment of feeling like, was I really meant to do this? What are other people going to think about me? I was here to kind of prove myself, and I was here to, make my family proud. You kind of isolate yourself. And I found when I started talking to people about that, even the professors on the committee that severed, and I talked to them, and they were the ones that actually says, well, have you considered maybe trying this other thing that you're good at? And I said, what's that? I said, well, you're really good at working with people. Have you thought about, going back to your education roots? So you tend to find that the barrier that was there, you don't want to make yourself feel inferior, because sometimes it may just be a different path. But even the people who may have held you back can sometimes be the people that you in another avenue, I guess, would be able to say that.
So we, I had health issues. So, we did that. That's question. It lasted a year. It was very stressful. I don't even know how I went through it because I was just constantly stressed. So like the thing that happened was the fact that I knew I had to, like, not like, oh my god, like this has happened to me, but like kind of like I knew I had to push past it. Because like I had like the option of like for like finding something else. But I did leave, and my house was just like continuing. So I just felt like leaving was not something I wanted to do, and I also like it also felt like I would be giving up if I left. So like I just tried to like manage and like resolve the issue myself. Obviously with like helping like president, but like it was still like mainly like something that I had to like have to just like mentally overcome. Cause like I just thought that like everything was like bad. Like I had no support system, so like I just felt like everything in all aspects or areas like was going downhill. But I was just like I don't know, I didn't want to give up, and I didn't like let that deter me from like continue to like try my best in school and like my best with like the situation that then we do the for like it was just like this is just
Also, I really consider that one thing, it's like, getting some I see. But for me, it was just that, I don't like this, but I tried this. It was.
All right, so we have another question here. What motivates you to not give up?
The cap and gown. The kind of, I don't know if that makes any kind of sense, but for me, like, I would always like, okay, this is gonna sound so stupid, don't judge me, but like, I would always like imagine that feeling of graduation day, if that kind of makes sense. Like I remember when I was in when I graduated with my associates, I would sit there and think, oh my God, like just picture when I get my bachelor's, like me walking across the stage. And then same thing when I was in undergrad preparing for my like master's. So like just that kind of motivation of the accomplishment, like all the hard work that you'll put into earning that that simple piece of paper for me was a big motivating factor, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm like, you know, for me, I feel like that's like a huge accomplishment. Like my college degrees are my prize, like my pride and joy. Those are my babies. So for me, like I'd see it as like, you know, that's just like a really big accomplishment, that especially for all of us as first gen college students, like we're the first ones in our family to achieve this such big thing that our family members praise. So for me, it was just that the accomplishment was the motivation.
A big goal of mine, and it's also kind of like constant. As a first generation student. Yeah, like. So I get it, not just international, if that's my stuff, but it's also like from my family. There is that to it. So that and the fact that it is like a goals. It's just like something that like, I know I have to accomplish, like regardless like how long it's taking, or like how hard it is. I just know that it's something that has to just happen.
So that there's, we talked a lot about that, like intrinsic self-motivation of like, this is my goal, this is what I want to do. Sometimes when things get tough, I like a bowl of ice cream. Like, there is that fact of like rewarding yourself with saying like, hey, things are tough right now, I'm gonna do something that makes me feel happy. Right? Like, that is perfectly okay. Like, you don't want to be in that moment for like weeks on end, right? Because you probably can't eat that much ice cream either, but it's that idea of you have that intrinsic self-motivation of this is the goal that keeps me going. And sometimes there's just those little tiny things that make it happy as well. And that's okay to utilize that. Like maybe all the intrinsic motivation you have is used up in that moment. It's okay to use a little bit of extra.
For me, mutton is a big motivator, but I love ice cream, so I think that's my new motivator right there. Like, it literally brings me to that's my new motivator. For me. That's fine. She's there. My shopping trip. I'm motivated by.
Yeah, I think that finds a good balance, right, between that short-term motivation and that long-term vision. Like, I'm gonna be walking across that stage, kind of thing. Glad everybody's a fan of ice cream. Does anybody want to add any last-minute advice, anything like that?
My biggest last minute advice is, you know, college is something that is on your radar, or maybe it's not on your radar, and it's like a distant kind of blip on the edge. You thinking about it is to just kind of do it, I don't say for yourself, but like utilize your resources, go through it, but do it if you're passionate about college, right? If that is something you see in your goal and hold on to that fact of that you're doing it because this is something you want to do, you want to better your circumstances, better yourself, better your community, whatever that motivating goal is, other than the ice cream. Whatever it is, kind of hold on to that fact and pursue college if that's really something you want. There's a lot of people out there who have gone through similar things you have. There's a lot of resources out there.
Other type of that's fine. I feel like college, sure, like have options in the like don't want to waste your time. So distracted, stay focused on whatever. It's really easy to like come there and like forget while you're here. You don't really have like in the beginning like that people really remind you like so. If you are comes to college, just be prepared to face different types of challenges. Just like be ready and
This isn't for college, but like anything that you do in life, like anywhere you go, I think it's important for you to know yourself. And if not, like get to know yourself, that's really important. It'll determine like who you meet or how you meet people. So like that gets me.
All righty, thank you, everybody. Thank you, our panelists. Thank you for all the students that attended. Hopefully this was really helpful. And we'll be seeing you around at our other Upward Bound events. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. Happy National First Gen Day. Woo-hoo. Bye.